focus for a moment on the AI trade and this rush to spend by the hyperscalers, of which Meta is now one. What do you make of this acqui-hire?
Thanks for having me. So we think without a doubt AI is transformational, and anyone who disagrees with that just probably hasn't been using it properly. But I think we're cautioning investors on our end to think through the connection between a transformational technology and what it actually leads to in terms of investment opportunities. History is littered with examples of great technology that just was not a good investment. Gutenberg invented the printing press, but he died in poverty. Railroad bonds were notoriously poor investments. We're just not seeing a lot of pure plays in AI right now in the public markets, but perhaps if investors are turning to the private markets, that may be a little bit more plentiful with opportunities for AI, as there's certainly going to be winners and losers in this space, but we're certainly in early stages.
Okay, so how are investors getting access to the private markets on this particular area? Are they looking more to access, well, VC liquidity in some way?
Yeah, we think it's a combination of trying to get that direct exposure with those that are actually building the software and delivering the AI tools that the end user is actually using, but also some of sort of the ancillary providers that can help on the margins, whether it's delivering the hardware on the tech, or it's maybe the data centers that are delivering the energy that can help facilitate all of this. The best solution is probably a combination of the two, as you don't want to sort of put all your bets on one side of a trade here and end up missing some of the bigger beneficiaries that were perhaps a little unintuitive as you were thinking through it in real time.
Mike, so sticking with public markets, are you seeing people trying to bet on whether it be the energy stack, whether it be the AI hardware or the software stack from an equity perspective, or are they going into the bond market too?
A little bit of both. I think the equity markets are probably a little sexier from that perspective. Data centers have been really great performers over the last couple of years, in expectation that there's just going to be a big energy sink to be able to use these models at scale. We've seen a little bit of pushback on that, given some of the opportunities we've seen coming out of DeepSeek, where they were able to perhaps do things a little more efficiently and pull back on some of those expectations. But it's probably a little bit of both on both sides of the capital markets, stocks and bonds, where there's going to be opportunities here driven by technological innovation.
I like that you bring that up, Mike, because it actually was quite recently that we were all panicking around actually whether you needed the scale of investment, you needed the scale of infrastructure because of DeepSeek. But I feel that's almost been put to bed. You look at Oracle's numbers this week, you think about the anxiety around supply, really, that's what the nature of the story has been. People can't build it fast enough. Is that where we're back to in terms of the market psyche?
To some extent, I think over the last year or so, perhaps pre-DeepSeek, there was a lot of concerns that just wasn't enough energy to go around, that some of these data centers were going to have to build out alternative energy sources, maybe flirting with nuclear. But it's really, I think it falls into the historical precedents where when you have a breakthrough technology, it often seems like there's a lot of startup costs to really break through and get the technology working at scale. But innovation's a beautiful thing, and finding ways to do things more effectively and efficiently always just seems to occur. I think that's happening in real time this year, and we could continue to expect that to unfold over the years ahead. Just finding better ways to build it and building a better mousetrap.
Okay, what about the mousetrap? Is it all about the United States? Are you looking at other opportunities? Are your investors, the people that you're speaking to, wanting to get out into Europe and Asia?
Yeah, there was certainly this theory that U.S. exceptionalism in AI was, an uncrackable theme, and I think there are some sort of fissures into that theme this year, where again you had the DeepSeek news out of China. You have several other countries that are really doing a lot to incentivize domestic development of these types of technologies. It's happening in the UAE and European Union, many parts of Asia. They're trying to build out this technology. So it's, is the U.S. going to have a monopoly on this technology for the foreseeable future? Remains unseen, but there's quite a few players that are emerging in this market that could end up sharing market share on this.
G42 making inroads into Europe and the UK. We'll discuss that later in the show. You've had Jensen Huang over there in the United Kingdom and Europe making deals. Michael, I'll end it here, therefore, because we've gone global, and today is a global day in nature, how people are feeling about potential increased tensions in the Middle East, maybe even war. How are your investors responding to that at this moment?
So we're cautioning our investors not to react too quickly to unfolding geopolitical conflict here. So far, I think we're following a pretty standard geopolitical blueprint where markets are reacting to the uncertainty that just didn't exist, a few hours ago. But in general, markets tend to see through this type of thing, especially for those countries that are not directly involved. This time around, I think inflation is going to be really important to watch here. If energy infrastructure in the region starts to come in the crosshairs, figuratively or perhaps even literally speaking, that could have potential inflationary impacts for energy, which is just not just an input cost for a direct input cost for consumers, but also for a lot of the goods they consume also consume energy. So we're looking at that pretty closely, as well as the shipping lanes throughout that region, which can be pretty important for global trade. Those are going to be really important to watch over the weekend.